What's going on, guys? We're going to give it a few seconds and let it pop up that everybody comes in so everybody can hear me. What's going on, guys? We're going to give it a few seconds. All right, and there everybody is. What's going on, guys? Sorry I'm late. I'm just running errands, Sorry about that, though. What's everybody got going on today? I don't really have a hardcore plan for this live stream. I just wanted to hang out with everybody and see what you guys are doing before my little baby gets out of church. Hello, Nicole. And Lee, I read some of the chat on the way here. I did not know you were a double amputee. That's wild, bud. I hate that happened to you. But I'm glad you're able to keep going, keep pushing through. That's what you have to do these days. So, what's everybody got going on today? Because I know a lot of people, they want me to talk about the release, the files that came out, but I skimmed through that and I didn't really see anything that interesting. All I really saw was it's showing what they're looking for, what links they've went to get information on Brian Kohlberger. So basically just the quick short of it is they have dotted their I's and crossed their T's as far as looking for information. They have checked every resource available, it seems. And if in court they don't have the evidence to prove him guilty after looking through his life the way they have, then he's probably not guilty. But you would expect if he is guilty that they have found something that has led them to that. They have his entire internet history, his entire phone history, his entire GPS history, everything about everything. One thing I didn't see, though, and I'm curious about, maybe the car doesn't have it, but were they able to get his GPS box from the car, the little black box in the car? Or does his car not have that or what? Because I didn't see anything on that. Does the screen look blurry to you, Sima? If it looks blurry, it looks like it's looking fine to me, but my connection these days, I never know. I never know if it's going to do good or not. I guess I could run a speed test real quick and check and see how I'm doing, at least, to get an idea. Let's see how this goes. Download looks good. Oh, yeah. So if the screen's blurry right now, it shouldn't be my connection, which is a first. But if the screen's blurry right now, you might be able to click up the little settings icon and make it into a higher resolution on your end on the screen. Sometimes you have to do that for some reason. I'm not sure why, but good deal. Glad it's clear on everybody else. I'm sorry that it's giving you a problem though, bud. Maybe it'll straighten up. I've got a new little setup going here today that I've got 3 screens in front of me now. 2 hooked up to the computer I'm streaming from, and 1 just so I can watch chat, because for some reason when I pop out chat from YouTube and try to watch it with StreamYard, it doesn't show it. Now I got the comments from StreamYard here, but then that doesn't tell when somebody sends a super chat or something. And if somebody's going to donate their hard-earned money to me, I want to at least acknowledge that. And I can't do that through StreamYard. So anyway, do me a favor, guys, everybody that's in here, hit the like button on the video. Somebody said that maybe it's covered up where you guys can't see it. It's not easy to remember. They said I should remind you to hit the like button. So hit the like button for me if you would. I really would appreciate that. Let's put this little ticker going across the bottom. That way everybody can be reminded. Well, before that, let's put this ticker. That way everybody knows. Now, does anybody want to come up and have a chat? Does anybody want to join? You don't have to, show your camera to everybody. Show it to me so I know you're not going to like flash the audience and run off and get me banned. But otherwise, you don't have to have a camera on. If you would like to join, let me get this link out here. And we can just have a conversation. Go here. Oh, it wants to be a pain in the butt now all of a sudden. There we go. I appreciate that, Lee. Touch DNA on the like button. Oh, that's funny to me. Let's show that up here. Make sure you put your DNA on that like button. So, did anybody look through those files and see anything that was interesting to you? Because, I mean, that's really all it was as far as I saw. Maybe I didn't see, I didn't look at 700 pages, but I skimmed through all of it in sections. And, I mean, it was nothing that interesting for me. If there was something and I missed it, we can go find it and look over it. Really hurt my feelings though, because that's what I was planning to do on this stream. But then it was like, that's a waste of time. Why are they what? I'm reading chat here. I'm missing. Maybe that's a conversation. Anyway, let's do this. Let's see if we can find something interesting to watch and talk about until somebody comes in. All right. Hello, Doyle. I hate the quiet. I hate it when it's not going. So when I start doing something, if I just start talking, I'm sorry. If I just stop talking, I'm sorry. I have my mind. I can't hardly focus on more than 2 or 3 things at a time, or I start zoning into one thing. Can't forget it. Can't remember what else I was doing. Let's see if anything's been said good. Law and crime. I want to try to stay away from News Nation as much as possible, unless it's Brian Hinton. Because, I mean, they're fine, do what they want to do, but it bothers me. What do you guys think about Alex Murdaugh and Buster Murdaugh? Mostly Buster. I mean, Alex has been found guilty. He's got consecutive life sentences. He's never getting out of jail. I don't know if he was actually guilty of the murders or not, but like I said before, I mean, he was found guilty by a jury of his peers. So that's all he can hope for. He can appeal, whatever. I don't see him ever getting out. I think he was a terrible person and he deserved to be in prison for the rest of his life anyway. But I wouldn't want that reputation of, oh, I killed my wife and son if I didn't do it. So if I were him, I would fight it regardless. But what do you guys think about Buster Murdaugh and Stephen Smith and that whole ordeal that basically those documentaries were made around? trying to paint Buster as if he had a homosexual relationship with Stephen Smith and then killed him to cover it up or something like that. You guys think that Buster is guilty or not guilty? And what do you think about his girlfriend filing a what is it, a restraining order and a whatever case against JLR? Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. Let's see. Here we've got Alex Murdaugh's defense files motion to appeal family murders. Let's go into that because I've got a lot to say about the Alex Murdaugh stuff, and I really don't have that much to talk about the Idaho 4 today. I mean, I've talked about it, I gave my opinion on it, and it's just, it's not, there's not anything that we're going to learn more. Like, we can sit and we can talk about the same stuff and we can go over, and if you have something you disagree on it, like with me with, and feel free to tell me and try to convince me. I'll try to convince you. We can go back and forth that way. But I mean, for the most part, there's a gag order. No good information is really coming out right now. We've talked about everything that has come out. I just don't see it. I can't figure it out. JLR is a creepy dude. Yeah, I mean, he's it's hard to explain. Like, I support his right to do what he's doing because that's what media has always done. But I don't know if he's a journalist or if he's just a vulture. I don't agree with like sensationalizing every little thing and trying to just paint anybody and everybody into a guilty position online without evidence of that. But I mean, he's free to do what he wants to do. And like, I watched a thing with him yesterday when he was on court TV, and the lawyer said he had broke no laws, that they just filed the case against him to get the restraining order. And that was it. It wasn't anything personal really against him, even though it probably was a shot at him because, so many people hate him. And I don't hate him. I don't watch him. It's not my style of content. I don't care to hear all the rumors and conflate things and mess my mind up to that extent to where it's like a conspiracy theory about everything or then defending the indefensible. But I mean, maybe some people think I do that too. So who knows? But I want to watch this Alex Murdaugh stuff. He definitely is trying to be accepted by the media elites. I mean, he sees himself as a media channel. And I mean, I guess he is. If he's traveling to the different places and he's interviewing people, as long as he doesn't cross certain boundaries, he would be doing the same thing as the media. See, what a lot of people don't see with the media is some of those pictures that come out or those videos of somebody doing something. That's because a member of the media was stalking that person and waiting to get this and that, like paparazzi, stuff like that. That's all legitimate media, and that's always happened. As a matter of fact, if we're going to talk about JLR before we get into Alex Murdaugh, let's go to Court TV. And let's watch that interview they did with JLR about what he's doing. Because, I mean, they took some shots at him in that interview for sure. They, they made a point, I feel like, to say, yeah, sometimes you cross the line. Don't cross the line. But they did say he didn't do anything illegal too. So it's just a morals thing, Missy Q, I'm sorry. Alex Murdaugh had his trial and he's in prison. Yes, he will run all his appeals. What's to talk about Alex Murdaugh? His goose is cooked. It's not really about Alex Murdaugh. It's about Buster Murdaugh, his son. And the Netflix documentary and the HBO Max documentary, and every YouTuber that talks about the case has all painted him as he had something to do with the death of Stephen Smith. And in that town, the reason the documentaries did it is in the town that they live in, where they had the name to hold the power, the rich, wealthy elites, the prosecutor, the solicitor, right? For almost 100 years, that family, grand or great grandpa, dad, it just it was three generations of Murdaughs who were the head prosecutor in a small town area. They're going to have a lot of power. And then they were also allowed to practice civil law. So they were able to get extremely rich while controlling the law, by controlling prosecution. But Buster is the son of Alex Murdaugh, and people, the narrative out is that he had something to do with the death of Stephen Smith, who was a young gay boy found in the middle of the road dead, written off as a hit and run, but rumors kept coming out that it wasn't a hit and run, that Buster Murdaugh and other people had something to do with it, and it just flourishes from there. And then one side of the police thought it was a hit and run. The other side of the police thought it didn't look like a hit and run because he didn't lose his shoes, and the damage done to his body didn't seem like it came from a car impacting him. So it's interesting. And if Buster had something to do with it, then that's a problem. And the rumors go that Buster's a closeted homosexual, and he had a relationship with Stephen Smith, who had helped him and tutored him or whatever. And Stephen Smith had car problems and called Buster for help. And instead, Buster and some of his other popular friends, I guess, because they don't never really give out the other names along, just Buster. And they apparently picked him up and did something to him. And that's the rumor, right? That's what goes around in the small town. But the big thing about that is, if any of you guys are from the country in these small towns, the Murdaughs are not rare. Like, that is a thing. Like, where I live, we had Mike Blakely. He was the sheriff for like 45 years. He owned a big ranch, had a couple helicopters, run the rodeo. And he was powerful. And there were so many rumors out that he was a drug dealing sheriff, that he would bust people to take their drug money so he could use it to, build an exit ramp or whatever off the interstate, or he would allow these people to deal drugs as long as they turned in people that dealt for him every once in a while so he could, look good around election time. And then there were also conspiracies that he had murdered people or killed people when he shouldn't have, or falsely accused and planted evidence. There was all kinds of rumors. And then eventually, like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, he got charged by the federal government for using his position of influence and power for personal gain. He was borrowing money from like something to do with the jail, the books on the jail or whatever, for the prison meal plans and stuff. He was borrowing it and he was putting it back, but he wasn't supposed to just be able to take money out of it. And then he was using his position and power as sheriff to get low interest rates on loans from banks and stuff. And they somehow proved all that. So they got him on a bunch of financial crimes, and he's in prison right now. He was the sheriff for like 40 something years, but that's our Alex Murdaugh, right? That's our elite name. Everybody knows the Blakeleys. Everybody knew who Mike Blakely was because he was the sheriff. Everybody had their stories of how crooked he was and this and that. And 99% of it was fake. 99% of it wasn't real. It was just, the lore of Mike Blakely, right? And I can't help but feel like that's what, is going on with the Murdaughs. Obviously, Alex Murdaugh was a terrible person. He stole from his dying friends on their deathbed when they needed the money. He stole from people who the money that he stole would have been life-changing money. And for him, he was just going to blow it in a month on a so-called 2,000 milligram a day oxycodone habit. Now, I'll say it here. I used to have a pain pill addiction. I've been clean for 9 years, so this isn't something that's recent or not, but it was recent enough that I know what oxycodone or Roxys are. 30 milligram pills. And at the height of my addiction, I was taking 4 or 5 of those a day, which is about 150 milligrams, right? And they do, the prosecution in the Murdaugh case tried to make it sound like, oh, well, pain pills don't give you energy. Does that make sense to you? They do. They affect people differently. And some people they hype up, make feel really good and want to do a lot of stuff. And some people they make pass out. But for me, I was one that they hyped up and I was up running, doing whatever, and I took 150 milligrams a day. That was like 4 a day, 4 or 5 a day. And I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine somebody being so far gone and addicted that they could possibly handle 2,000. I don't think the human body could handle 2,000 milligrams without dying, regardless of tolerance, because that is a very strong medication. And when they said that at the trial, it was like, ain't no way. It ain't no way. He said he was spending $50,000 or $60,000 a month on pain pills, and that he was taking 2,000, 1,500 to 2,500, as a matter of fact, milligrams a day. That would be like 50, 30 milligram oxycodone, which is basically for cancer patients. That's insane. That's insane. But anyway, let's see what they had to say about Buster Murdaugh and JLR. Let's share the screen. Let's share it. Let's make this big. Let's make it happen. Come on, get big. And play.
Stand up, Buster. I do. Is that Buster? Yes, sir. And is Brooklyn seated next to him? Can you stand up, Brooklyn? Is that Brooklyn? Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Al. That's all the questions I have.
So there's Buster Murdaugh and his fiancee girlfriend. I'm not exactly sure of the status. I don't think it necessarily matters, but they're together, and that's Brooklyn. Brooklyn White is her name, and they're identified in court. And Buster, if you've watched the documentaries, there's Buster seems to be somewhat implicated in a prior incident involving a young man named Stephen Smith. Now, no charges against him. I believe there may be an investigation going on, but he hasn't been charged with anything. But a lot of people are wondering, what's going on. And I want to play you this little clip. And this is after, I believe this is after the conviction of Alex Murdaugh. And we hear a voice in it talking about Buster. Take a listen.
Buster, tell why you being found guilty.
All right, and we paid attention to it when we.
All right, so I'm guessing that was JLR screaming out that Buster is next. So they got him on here for that reason, because somebody filed the report against him.
Because a lot of people have been talking about this, about what happened to Stephen Smith. Is this going to be the next case? I think Charlie Pager spoke with Stephen Smith's mother. But now let me show you what's been happening. And I got these reports that there was someone following or harassing Buster and Brooklyn. So we looked it up. We've got part of the police.
All right. So on that part right there, somebody following and harassing Buster and Brooklyn, but Buster, right? Because that's who they're interested in. That shouldn't happen, but that's going to happen with media, people having freedom, being in public places. You lose all right to privacy when you go out in public, right? People can film you, people can walk around. Now, if you can show that they're following you, that they're stalking you, that they're harassing you, then you can file charges on them. But if you're a high profile person, and this case was huge, I mean, you had HBO do a documentary and Netflix do a documentary, and they released it the week the trial was wrapping up. So while the trial is going on with the jury not sequestered, Netflix and HBO Max both released documentaries that paint the Murdaughs as, oh Lord, sorry. Oh, how can we fix that? Now, while that was happening, you had the courts going on. Sorry, the phone call messed my mind up. So while courts going on, you had HBO and Netflix drop documentaries that just absolutely painted the Murdaughs as the most evil people. And not only Alex Murdaugh, but Paul Murdaugh and Buster Murdaugh were both painted also as just entitled brats who flaunted their power because of their last name. That's what the documentary was about, and it focused a huge portion on the Stephen Smith stuff. So when that happens, and it's about you, you're gonna deal with unwanted attention. The idea that they're just gonna be able to go about their lives as normal after that, it's just not. It's sad, especially if he had nothing to do with it. If Buster is completely innocent of anything and hasn't done anything wrong, and maybe not even the same type of person as his father. Maybe. We don't know about him, right? We only know what is said, and there hasn't been a lot of other juicy information come out. So you would think if it was a lot of other stuff, they would have found that and already poured it out about him.
Report I want to show you, and this is what the police report is saying. On the evening of 3/6/2023, Brooklyn White exited her residence and witnessed a reporter looking into the windows of her vehicle. White is familiar with this reporter, who she identified as Jonathan Lee Riches. White explained that for the last few weeks, Riches has been following her and Buster while at the courthouse in Carleton County, South Carolina. She's aware of how Riches found her. She's unaware of how Riches found her residence. White showed me a YouTube channel called Jonathan Lee Riches Investigates, which includes videos Riches has posted heckling Buster at the courthouse.
Jonathan Lee Riches Investigates.
Buster has requested
I love that for
to
some
not
reason.
be listed in the involvements or any subsequent reports due to privacy concerns. So I look at that and I say, wait a minute, I know who Jonathan Lee Riches is. He's got a
Lisa, how you doing? I feel sorry for Buster. Right now, I mean, he's an innocent person for now. There's absolutely zero tangible evidence that he has had anything to do with anything that's going on or any of the crimes that's taken place. And his father was just convicted of murdering his mother and his brother. The person that you trust the most in the world killed your baby brother and your mom. That's pretty rough. And then he's conflicted because his father is not admitting to doing it and says he didn't do it, even though he was found guilty by a jury and the evidence looks really bad. I mean, they never could get conclusive evidence that put Alex Murdaugh pulling the trigger, but the timeline looks terrible for Alex Murdaugh, right? There's some things in there that don't really make sense, like the phones were never moving together, how her phone got to this place 2 minutes before Alex Murdaugh ever got there. Things like that didn't add up. But it's let's see. It's hard to imagine being Buster right now. And then not only do you have to deal with your whole life fell apart, your family's gone, your dad's in prison for killing your mom and your brother, you have nobody anymore except for your uncles, your family name that used to really carry weight around town and you could be proud to have is now just a black mark. It's just the worst thing you could have. Possibly should go and change it after this, right? In order to ever regain any semblance of privacy, you're going to have to just uproot your whole life and your whole thought process for the next year or so. And I feel sorry for him. I really do. Now, if he did do that, I don't feel sorry for him at all. I mean, that it's ridiculous, but we don't know that and we don't have any proof of that. And that's just, what people want to believe.
Channel, he covers all true crime.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree would be what they would have to say to it,
Stories around the nation. As a matter of fact, I spoke to him at the courthouse one day. I think he was streaming live, and we were talking while we were waiting for the verdict. So I said, well, let's get the other side of the story. So joining me tonight in Tampa, Florida, host of Jonathan Lee, Richard.
So, guys, tell me, why does he wear those hats and those shirts? Because they look goofy. Like, is it a skit? Is it like a character, Like if any of you watch MMA, the Schmo, the way he acts in his little character, is that what JLR has going on? Because no members of the media are wearing a hat that says media. No members of the press are wearing a T-shirt that says press. That is just, it's almost comical. If he would just, dress normally and not wear the gimmicks, I feel like people would even take him more seriously. I mean, obviously, if he, didn't sensationalize stuff and blame innocent people for things, but like, I feel like he would be taken a lot more seriously if he didn't do the hat and the shirt and stuff. It's always funny to me. It almost made me want to order one so I could do like an impersonation video, but that's not my type of content,
Investigates on YouTube. Jonathan Lee Richards is with us. Jonathan, great to see you.
Great to see you, Vinny. Thanks for having me on. Happy Friday.
All right. So what's your side of this story? We've got this allegation that you're following, perhaps stalking these folks at the courthouse. You're looking in the car. What's your version of what's been happening here?
So that's 100% not true, Vinny. I'm doing what every other media outlet is doing down at. First off, I don't really know who Brooklyn White is. I can, not to be mean, but I can care less about Brooklyn White. I'm more about Buster Murdaugh. I'm more about Buster and his role in possibly Stephen Smith. So while they were at the trial, I would ask Buster while he was going in and out of the court, what happened to Stephen Smith? Did you murder Stephen Smith? And then I also asked other questions about him getting kicked out of law school for plagiarism or whatnot, but he would never answer. He was always quiet. He would just stare straight. And a lot of my subs, a lot of my followers on my Jonathan Lee Richards Investigates channel are suspect of that.
All right. So there's no reason to be suspect that somebody won't answer a YouTuber following them around, asking them incriminating questions at that. Like, because no matter what you say, in Buster's position, anything he says can and will be used against him. Remember that. Always. So if he says anything on the record, that's what that's going to be. People, if he doesn't word it right, it's going to get twisted. I would absolutely not answer either. But if I was Buster, I would put out a public statement at the least, right? I would sit down, write it. He's a lawyer, going to law school, whatever. Sit down, write out a public statement, and release that. And in that public statement, should be something like, I hope and pray that the justice for Stephen Smith, whoever's responsible for his death, is found, whatever. And people will take it as lip service and this and that, but he either means that or he doesn't mean it. He either is going to speak on it or not. And if he just doesn't speak on it whatsoever, like JLR just said, his viewers are taking silence as guilt, right? Silence isn't guilt. You never need to speak or give anybody any incriminating information about yourself, no matter how innocent you might be. Remember that. Just in personal situations. Not speaking, not answering the question does not mean that you're guilty. Now, if you are completely innocent and you don't care that they might twist your words or whatever, go for it. But innocent people get in trouble for things they didn't do all the time. All the time.
They want to know why he doesn't answer that question. Because, Stephen Smith's case is a mystery, found on the side of the road in the middle of the night, July 8th, 2015, on a remote road right near Alex Murdaugh's home. And then there's a lot of rumors and speculations about the ties possibly between Stephen Smith and Buster. So, I kept asking him questions. He wouldn't answer. So after the trial, I seen a lot of media outlets down there at one of the home.
Allison Miles. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. That is awesome.
Buster Murdaugh stays at in Hilton Head. So I went down there to see what was up, maybe try to get Buster.
Again, if anybody wants to come on, I dropped a link down in the chat earlier, and I will drop it again in case anybody missed it. Let me slow this down. I've got 2 comment sections here, so bear with me. There we go.
Answer the questions or, try to get an interview out of them. And there's lots of media out there. It's a circus out in front of his house. There's lots of media taking pictures every time he comes out, walks his dog, every time he goes walking. And I was out there, and she actually, I guess Brooklyn, a female, walked out of the house and walked her.
So do people just imagine that the media doesn't do the same things as JLR, though? Like, imagine, okay, the Quentin Simon case. Think about the Quentin Simon case. The YouTubers were out there, right? And that was the big story, that YouTubers were out there with bullhorns and they were raising hell and they were causing whatever. And other people came out that were mad that the YouTubers were there and started causing problems too. And it became this whole thing. But before all that got started, before everybody started hating the YouTubers and bashing the YouTubers, who for the most part just sat there and looked at the house like the news cameras did anyway, you had any car that came in and out was getting surrounded by mainstream media. Cameras in the car, trying to see if she's in the car or not, chasing the cars down the road, trying to look inside, trying to get the right shot to see if Leilani was in the car. That stuff happens. Excuse me. That stuff happens with mainstream media also. So it's easy to hate the YouTuber who does it because he's just a small person. He's not this big channel. He doesn't have all these lawyers backing him and stuff. But he's following the example set by the media. And it's important that the media has the freedom to investigate things also. Not to a certain point. Now, when you cross harassing and stalking and all that, that's a line that you shouldn't cross. But it happens, and by a lot more people than just people like JLR. Like, it's a trope at this point for everybody to say tragedy pimps, right? If you talk about a crime, if you talk about true crime on YouTube, somebody is going to bash you for being a tragedy pimp. Somebody is going to say, well, you're profiting off of the misfortune of these victims. And in the end of the, it is to an extent, because if I'm talking about that and I'm getting paid to talk about that, I guess I am profiting off that misfortune, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful to victims. I always try to be respectful to any victims and to anyone involved in the case, including the suspect, because they hadn't yet been proven guilty, right? And if you're talking about it and you're profiting off of it, I guess they just can't help but call you a tragedy pimp. But see, what they always fail to realize is that they saw your thumbnail. They saw your video title. and they clicked on it. And those people that are screaming tragedy pimp at every creator, even the ones who don't go overboard and exploit people, those people are not mad that you're talking about the case or profiting off the case, because they support plenty of creators who talk about the case and profit off the case. They're mad that you disagree with them. And rather than them try to convince you that they are right and you are wrong, they would rather just insult you because they can't make an argument for their case. Sorry.
And some reporters started yelling questions at her about Buster. She immediately went in the house and closed these blinds, but then Buster like peeks out of the blinds, he looks, and then he closes the blinds. And then about 15 minutes later, the police come and then tell all the media outlets, well, you guys are on public property because it's a public road out there and a public sidewalk. You're not breaking the law. Just don't trespass on their property, and just do not knock on their door and go on their property. We all agreed, said, okay, fine. That's good. Thank you for your service, because we back law enforcement. And I was sitting in my car, and then all these neighbors start coming out, shining flashlights at all the media's face, saying, get out of here. You guys are media hounds. Get away.
So, Tanya, innocent people until proven guilty, or innocent until proven guilty. YouTube can inflame vigilantes to attack people. That might be what happened to Paul and Maggie. I agree with you. If you come out and you say, this person is guilty, they did it, I know they did it, I got proof that they did it, I just can't release that yet, I'll release that at this time. Or if you come out and you say, oh, I have a source that told me that this person confessed to him when they didn't, all of that stuff is ridiculous, right? But to come on and tell the narrative of what's going on and give your individual opinion about what's going on, nobody gets upset. All the people, what my point is, like, all the people that hate the tragedy pimps will go on the Glare's channel, and when they get on his channel, he'll be watching the same stuff, talking about the same stuff, but his rhetoric is just against that creator rather than against anyone involved. Like, anybody, there's a refusal to accept the idea that people that is around the case might possibly be involved. Let's go, for example, Dylan Mortensen, right? Dylan Mortensen, from what we know right now, is a survivor. Some people would call her a victim because, you know, she saw what she saw and heard what she heard and went through what she went through. She's got a sketchy story. A lot of it doesn't make sense. There needs to be a lot of questions asked to clarify that out. I'm sure the police did. I'm sure the police asked a lot of questions, and we just don't know yet. We'll find out about that stuff during trial, or once the case is over, we'll get the full story of that. But from what we know so far, it sounds sketch, right? So it's not debatable to whether you heard all this, you saw this person. He didn't have a knife sheath, so he had to be carrying a knife. We assume he had to be covered in blood. You saw him, he walked right towards you. You noticed his eyebrows. You then waited 8.5 hours before calling somebody else to come over, and then they discovered the bodies, and then they called the cops using your phone. Now, that's a very strange story, and maybe it all is understandable and lays out, and there's a timeline of events that makes that work and makes that make sense, and we just don't know about it. But we don't know about that. So, of course, people are going to say, well, that sounds suspect. Dylan might be suspect. Was Dylan involved? Is it possible she was involved? That's going to happen. That's not victim blaming. That's just being curious, speculating, looking through every possible scenario that could take place and trying to decide what's more probable, because almost anything is possible. A lot of people get caught up on that. Well, it's possible this, it's possible that. And my favorite is, well, it's possible that even though we have him on video shooting this person in the head, that's not him. That's his secret evil twin. And it's possible because, I mean, it's happened before. I mean, twins could have been separated at birth and you could think that's him, but it's possible. It's just not probable. And probability is more important than possibility. Once you discover, is it possible? Then you have to go on to ask, is it probable? Because, I mean, come on. Anything could be a long shot.
The way, and I left. And then next thing I know, I see that a police report has been filed with my name and
for instance, Dylan being trans, right? For some reason, this is such a fetish for everybody of whether or not Dylan is a trans person or not. And if she is, that might mean this. And if she isn't, that might not mean that. And then that Justin guy came out saying all kinds of crazy stuff about how he's trans and he knows she's trans. And we're not allowed to discuss it past that because we're not trans and all this crazy stuff. I don't think Dylan's trans. She doesn't even look trans to me. She looks like a young girl, a tall girl with lip fillers. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she is. But unless it's directly relevant to the murders, I don't care if she's trans. I don't know her. She's not around me. She has no effect on my life. Her choices don't affect me whatsoever. So unless she's involved in the murders or the murders happen because she's trans or something to that extent, I don't care if she's trans. I don't get why that's such a strong topic for so many people. I mean, I guess, a lot of people hate people like that, and I don't think you should. I think, I believe in freedom. I believe in my freedom to not have to deal with your stuff, and you can't tell me what to say and what to call you and how to address you. You can't do all that. You can't force me, right? You can ask me, and I'll be respectful, but you can't force me to do it no more than I can force you not to do what you want to do, right? So drop the trans stuff. It doesn't, unless it matters. And if it matters, give me a reason why it matters. Otherwise, drop that. She's not trans. They've got pictures of her growing up as a little girl. So if she is trans, she was trans from a baby or whatever, or from at least a toddler. And I'm just talking. I'm just reading comments and talking. Like I said, I don't have any direct goal today with this live stream. I just wanted to hang out with you guys for a little bit.
this woman here, I don't even know, name drop. I could care less. Not to be mean again, I could care less about her. I'm not there for her. I'm there for Buster.
Let me bring in another guest in Columbia, South Carolina, criminal defense attorney Lori Murray. Lori, down in South Carolina.
The Mad Hatter. He presents as a rabbit.
Investigative reporting, trying to get a story, asking questions of someone who's in a public controversy versus harassment or stalking or anything else. Where's the line in South Carolina?
Well, it's repeated unwanted contact. It's following them wherever they go. It is sitting outside their house and watching them and just making them feel like they are not free to move around. And honestly, I mean, it is kind of what the media is doing. I'm not specifically mentioning your guest, but the media in general has been really hard on Buster.
In general.
He's going through a rough time. I think we have to all agree that he is going through a rough time. And if you have any empathy at all, then you have to recognize that. And he needs a little space to get over it. He needs a little space to be able to walk his dog. But there is
So how much space? I mean, if someone is walking down a public street, can we ask them questions in South Carolina?
I mean, you can, but it's his right not to answer them. And I
Right.
don't think that, I mean, I don't know why we have to take something away from the fact that he wouldn't answer his questions. I wouldn't answer his questions. I would ignore him too, because if he gives one guy questions, they're just going to keep flying at him. And honestly, it's paparazzi. It's none of the Murdaughs wanted any part of that. But, there is a point to this.
Nah, absolutely true. If you answer that one person's questions, everybody else is going to ask you. Like, you ever watch at a press conference and they're taking questions, and then when they say last question and these people ask, when they start to walk off, every reporter in the place is like, trying to get an answer for something that they didn't get their answer to, right? That's what's going to happen. And then that's where I get that his words can get twisted, because you answer one question, everybody starts asking stuff. They word it certain ways. You answer a certain way, and then they twist that into making it sound like you said something obscene or something incriminating.
Report. They have to have 2 reports to get a restraining order against the police. So that's why they called the police. That's why they have reported this to police. I'm sure it's nothing personal against your guest. I'm sorry, I cannot remember your name.
Jonathan.
But Jonathan, thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry. But I'm sure it's nothing personal against you. But you have to have 2 police reports to get a restraining order. And this restraining order will go more than likely, if the judge is smart enough, against all media, not just you personally, but against all media back off of Buster and his residence.
And I just want.
All right. The Mad Hatter, or the Mad Chatter, I'm sorry. I think what JLR is saying is a big lie when he says he doesn't know who she is and it's all about Buster, etc. Look at all the research he does. He looks into everybody and everyone involved. Okay, I see that a little differently, because I believe he is all about Buster for why he's there and what he's doing. But I agree with you. He knows the girl's life story at this point. That's what he does. Records request. He searches for information, finds information, and reports it to everybody. Sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it's right. But he is just constantly creating content, right? Like, this is his full-time job, that he is a content creator, and he is going to look for any reason he can to make a video, to do a live stream, to report on what's going on in the criminal case. And if it's dead, if it's nothing really going on, well, that's when the rumors and the gossip and the word of mouth starts coming out. Well, this person said it might be this, and this person says it might be that. And the way they word it gives, like, deniability, where, oh, I'm not accusing this person of it, but
A little clarity, right? Because I've been in news for a long time. I mean, you go back to 60 Minutes, Mike Wallace chasing people.
Hey, Jerry.
Right? So what's the difference? Like, what's the difference here between a situation like that? Is it how close in physical proximity you get to him, or how often you are close to him in South Carolina?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I can only
Could
tell
you
you what our
please?
statute said. I don't know where he was. I don't know what their statute was. I know that over time, we have gotten a whole lot stricter on stalking laws. They've been, especially in South Carolina, we had I think this is actually a new stalking law that is on our books. And I say new because it was new to me. It's probably 20 years old now. But there was a reason that stalking law was enacted. It wasn't because of media, but it applies to everybody. That harassment,
Okay.
to get the restraining order, you have to have 2 police reports.
So, Jonathan, have you been contacted personally by law enforcement or by anyone representing Brooklyn or Buster?
No,
No,
law
he
enforcement, again, they came out that day and said that we were all following the law. We were on a public sidewalk, public road. We have the right to be there. Just don't,
And that is true.
Going onto someone else's property and trespass.
There's a thing, though, right? Like, it is true, they're not violating the law if they're on the public sidewalk, on the public road, walking back and forth. Now, if they sit there and try to set up shop or something, then they're blocking access, and you can get into some things there. But as long as they're just sitting there and they're not physically assaulting and they're not harassing, as long as they don't cross the line into harassment, they're legal. They're legally allowed to go there. Now, just because you're legally allowed to do something doesn't mean you should, right? That doesn't mean you should do it just because you can. But the way JLR sees it, according to him here, is that is his job, and he is just doing his job. It'd be a pretty douche move of somebody to pull up behind you on the side of the road, walk up to your window, and take $200 or $300 from you because you went over the speed limit a few miles back. But if a cop does it, he's just doing his job. And that's how JLR justifies the things he does and the things he says in his own mind, according to JLR right here.
that, if Buster Murdaugh said out of his own mouth to me personally, hey, leave me alone, I would leave him alone. I would walk away. But I haven't heard nothing out of his mouth. As far as Brooklyn, I don't know her, and
Okay, so we all know that right there was a lie, right? Like, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Buster Murdaugh can say, hey, leave me alone. And JLR might leave him alone in that very second. But he will not just go away and leave Buster Murdaugh alone. He will not. That's his job, remember? So he can't just not do his job because the person he's investigating doesn't want him to do it. That was just straight up a lie, though. I had to call that out because that's hilarious. If you just told me not to do it, I wouldn't do it.
less about her. This is about getting questions from Buster. Maybe he should tell people he doesn't want to speak. But the fact that he's silent, we don't know if he wants to speak or not. He hasn't said to anyone, hey, I don't want to talk, or leave me alone. He has yet to say that.
So you're down in Tampa right now, Jonathan, on a different story? Or are you going back to South Carolina?
I am. I'm going to follow the financial crimes of the Murdaugh family. Lori Vallow Daybell is going on trial in Idaho starting April 3rd. I am planning to go out there. Also cover the Moscow, Idaho case with Brian Kohlberger, preliminary hearing.
I have a feeling
He's going to be all over the place.
I've seen a lot of you.
I'm all over cases.
All right.
Vinny, I'm all over. That's my job. And I know that, there's laws you have to follow, and I try my best to follow them.
All right. And I wanted to make sure that you knew what you can't do in South Carolina. That's why I brought in Lori Murray. She's the best of the best down there. So don't get arrested.
She's very smart.
Yeah,
That's
she is.
what it is.
This part right here, this is what I want everybody to listen to. Now, I know most of the people that watch me on a regular basis, they already know this, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people get upset at me, like when I make a video and I'm saying something that's an obvious point, but you have to read the comments. See, I read the comments because I don't want to miss something. People write, stories in the comments for me to read, to tell me about themselves or what's going on or something they went through. And I don't want to just have somebody spend that much time writing and not even attempt to read it. So I check comments and I read comments a lot, but some are just absolutely insane comments. And that's why I make the points that I do, or I stress the facts that seem like it should just be common sense. I'm doing my best to in a respectful way, try to help people understand, hey, to me, in my perception, this take you have is ridiculous. But I try to do it in a nicer way rather than just hateful. And I get excited when I start talking about something. People think that I'm getting really mad or really upset or whatever. I just get excited when I talk.
We have 15 seconds. Go ahead. Last word,
50
Lori.
seconds. You did not break the law necessarily. They're filing these police reports just to get a restraining order. It's nothing personal against you. It's just to get the restraining order. They're not seeking to press charges
All right.
against you.
We got to the bottom of it.
Thank you for the clarification.
Fantastic. Jonathan.
All right. So that last part right there, that's important, right? He did not break the law in any way, shape, or form. That's just so they can get a restraining order against him and the media. And they said it's nothing personal. I feel like it probably is a little bit personal. She just doesn't know enough about him, because if JLR was on my doorstep trying to report stuff on me, I'd be wanting to get him away from it too. Let me just say it, because it ain't no telling what he's going to pull out from what you did in middle school in 1996, Oh, goodness. So, guys, make sure in the chat, if y'all see anything that's not okay, if you see somebody spamming links to stuff that shouldn't be spammed to, or somebody just somebody that really deserves a ban, not somebody you disagree with, but somebody that's saying something that can get the channel in trouble or get me in trouble, kind of let me know about it. I'm trying my best not to go into the whole modding everybody out and then people getting timed out all the time and banned for nothing, because I don't ban people for their opinion regardless of what it is, even if it's bad about me. Like I've had people say terrible things about me. Those comments are going to stay up, you know. I've had people give a completely wild, crazy conspiracy, and as long as it's not painting somebody like as long as they say allegedly or whatever, I'm not deleting it because I believe that people should be able to express themselves. I'm a real big believer in rights. Like politically, I'm not, I can't really call myself a conservative because I'm not that I'm physically conservative. I have the mindset of a conservative, I guess. I can't go on the far left train, but I also can't go on the far right either, right? Like I like to be in the middle. I've got some liberal views where I believe you should be free to do as you please and people shouldn't bother you unless, there's a reason. And then I also believe that you should be held accountable for the things you do. If you do go overboard, you should be accountable and you're responsible for you. And I believe we should bring back the mindset of family should help family before government helps family. But nobody believes that anymore, apparently. So I don't know why I started talking about that. I got ADHD. That's why being live is weird for me, because if I don't have a plan, if I don't have an outlay of what I plan to do, then we can just get crazy. But yes, Jerry, I don't align with either political party. There's nothing that either side, or better yet, there's something that both sides feel very strongly about that I don't, right? Just as far as conservatives, I'm mostly conservative, I guess you would say, right? I mostly agree with common sense approaches to problems, but I also agree with progressives because let's look at the world today, right? 2023. This is a very different world than we lived in 2013, which is a very different world than we lived in 2003, which is absolutely insane. Every 10 years you go back, you realize how far we have progressed. So we are a progressive society. We are moving forward. Life is changing. I mean, I like to go in people ago, right? Like a lifespan. So if you just say that somebody lived 100 years, right? 100-year lifespan, or if you want to be, whatever the average, 75. 2 people ago was 150 years ago, right? The country's not even 300 years old. So conservative, what are we conserving? Because the world's changing so much, it's hard to conserve. But then ultra progressives who are, oh, I want to go and I want to make this okay, and it's okay to do that, and you should be able to make this choice and that choice and that choice and that choice, and if you want to be a cat, you can be a cat. Stuff like that, that's asinine, right? That's asinine to me. Like, we have to stay in reality, but we need to push forward at the same time, right? It's just boundaries. I guess a centrist is what I am. And people hate that because it's like, oh, you're a fence setter, you're this, you're that. Oh, well, I don't believe anything wholly with either party, so I can't just jump in with either party. Election season, though, election season is fun for me because I get really caught up into it and what people are saying. And like I said, I don't have a loyalty to a party of like, oh, well, they're Republicans, so I'm voting for them. Or, oh, they're a Democrat, so I'm voting for them. I like to point out the ignorance from both sides and the crazy shit both sides say. I still say we still need to drain the swamp. It's more populated than ever. Let's see. What do you guys want to go through? What do you guys want to do? Anything interesting that's happening? Any interesting videos or anything that's come out? Because there's not much. I'm over here talking about politics, and that's the worst thing I could do on my channel. We can make them all mad. Everybody gets mad when I talk about politics. Absolutely everybody. Let's see. I saw that. I don't want to click on that. That's a JLR video. I almost clicked on it because the thumbnail and the title, but I don't want to do that after just doing court TV with JLR. So, what do you guys think about, since we did go into politics a little bit, what do you guys think about January 6th? Have y'all noticed, have y'all seen what came out? Tucker Carlson released, McCarthy gave it to Carlson. They released it, and it shows the guy that had the horns, he's being escorted around the Capitol by police officers. They're unlocking doors, opening them for him. And when he's behind the podium up there giving his speech, he's really saying a prayer and thanking the officers for allowing them to be inside. Now, I don't want to whitewash January 6th, because what happened outside, the stuff we saw going on the cameras, like, this video doesn't negate other videos that showed what other people were doing, right? So other people, they were climbing up, they were breaking stuff, they were kicking cops while they were on the ground. A riot did happen. An insurrection, not so much. But a riot did happen. But this guy got 41 months in prison, and he's being escorted around the Capitol by police officers. At one point, he literally walks through like 9 cops, and there's no other people, no other whatever you want, insurrectionists, if you want to call them that, around. He walks through a group of cops while he's being escorted around the building on a little tour, and none of them do anything. If they wanted to arrest him, they could have did it right there. Nobody else was around. So 41 months in prison, and he was guided around. He thanked them for allowing them to be in the thing. No, is there something he did outside of the footage that was released that we don't know about? Because a lot of Democrats came out and was like, well, that's irresponsible and this and that, and you're painting a narrative that there was no violence, when that's not true, because Tucker Carlson said, we all know about the violence that took place on January 6th, and showed the videos of the violence taking place. So it did definitely happen. Some stuff happened that it got out of hand. I don't think any worse than other protests we've had in recent years, but it got out of hand, and it was at the Capitol, and they framed it as an insurrection. But this guy got 41 months in prison for getting a tour around the Capitol. Jacob Chansley or whatever. Did y'all see this? Do y'all have any idea what I'm talking about when I say this? Or is this just a bubble that I'm stuck in? Enon Harsh was on Truth and Transparency last night? Really? That's interesting, because Enon Harsh is a character, right? Like, he was the neighbor to the Idaho 4. He's a chef. He came home a few hours before the murders took place, but he was up in his house doing stuff. He initially said he heard something, then he didn't, then he did, then he didn't. And there's a lot of weird around Enon Harsh, and he's a chef. So, like I said in the video, he was good with knives and whatnot. But then he just went away. Like, they just completely, he was trying to start his own YouTube thing, it seemed like, off of it, which is kind of sketch, but he's trying to start his own YouTube thing off of it, and then just no more. Saw no more from him. I guess the clout chase got to him. Okay, so I see Enon Harsh interview with guest upcoming at 8:30 tonight. Was he on last night? Okay. Victim's neighbor Enon Harsh arrested. Let's go to this and see if I can. Was it a live or was it a video? D Brown 83. I love your thoughts on things. Keep up the good work. January 6th is awful how those arrested have been or being treated. Sad. True. If they were the ones breaking stuff and tearing stuff down and trying to say that they were going to go in and murder people and stuff, yeah, punish them to the fullest extent of the law. We don't want those type of people to represent us as a country, right? But for the people who were just there protesting, that were let in, that were walking around being respectful, picking up stuff that's been knocked over, straightening up shelves and whatnot, and being as respectful as possible, and basically just touring through the Capitol, those people should not have been charged. And I mean, there was a narrative painted of it. That's the part that's bothersome, right? It'd be one thing to say, okay, this all happened and this is terrible and these people should be punished, like I'm saying now. But also, there was a lot of stuff going on here that was not as it was reported at the time. So much stuff that wasn't, like, so many things that they used to frame it as a violent insurrection is what was not true. Does that make sense? Like, so otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to call it a violent insurrection unless they lied about these certain things. And that would have made it a completely different story. Still about crime and criminals doing bad things at the Capitol. But the attempt to overthrow the government with the leaders of the different groups that they said was in on that, a lot has come out since then that those leaders of those groups didn't really do that or had different ideas, and they've got their video to show how they were acting. So, I mean, we'll find out, hopefully with McCarthy leaking stuff and Tucker putting it out and the Democrats trying to prove their narrative, we'll start getting more and more and more information, and we'll find out what really happened rather than the left's narrative or the right's narrative about it. Because the truth always falls somewhere in the middle, right? Always. So, was it a live stream though? With Enon Harsh? Recap with Enon Harsh? That's what's coming up. I don't see anything. Oh, Enon Harsh joins the panel. Is there a timestamp for this from where he comes on, or do I just need to find it? They said there was a connection with Kaylee and Brian. Seems Enon Harsh is the attention seeker. Yeah, high chance of a frame job. Am I the only one who dares to question whether it's even true that BK was sorting trash when he was arrested? No, we question everything that police officers say. But it seems like a weird thing they would lie about. It seems like Brian Kohlberger's attorney is famous in Idaho because she got somebody off on a murder conviction because a cop told a lie. So I believe that the police during this investigation are either going to make sure that they don't say anything that can be formatted as a lie against them to the best of their ability. I mean, people are going to say stuff, whatever, and I feel like that's a big reason for the gag order also. They know who they're dealing with Ann Taylor. So, did anybody have the timestamp on when Enon Harsh would have been here?
Sweeping action now to understand.
I am confused with what I'm looking at. This is not what I was on. Why did it load that? There we go. Why is this taking forever? All right, so here's where the panel is. Don't see Enon Harsh there yet. Sorry for the classy guys. Okay, so there he's commented. So maybe he's on soon after. Yes, there he is. All right, let's come over here. Still learning how to do this live streaming stuff, so bear with me. Bear with me.
Here, I'll teach you.
All right, let's see what we got going.
Hit the comment that I just wrote in chat. Hit that.
What are your guys' thoughts on Enon Harsh?
And I encourage you to rap. You can rap for me. I'll let you pick any song you want. I know this sounds weird, but seeing how Shady Moscow and Mr. Brian
Oh, goodness. Come on. I'm sorry, I'm impatient.
I'd see her in like
Here
some
you
of the friend groups when I was like selling pot to them or whatever.
Okay, we got to back that up.
No.
Wait, did
Where
you
we
sell
at?
her pot?
I don't think so. No, I'm brothers.
We need to land on that. I guess we're just going to play it and wait for that to come in. Because who is he selling pot to?
Hi.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good.
Oh my gosh, welcome. So I just want you to know, like, it was all in very love. I honestly was. You can see I can't stop laughing, but.
No, you're good. That was I appreciated it. That was some of the funniest shit I've seen all year.
Hey, Sleuthy.
When you saw it, like, were you like, did you even remember it? Were you like, holy shit?
Yeah, I definitely remembered it.
You did?
I mean, I forgot about it when I saw it. There's no way I could ever forget it. You know what I mean?
Because I thought maybe you guys had like a past.
Yeah, I mean, I knew her brothers.
Like, I'm right here.
Oh,
All right, Enon Harsh. Like I said, what do you guys think about him? But I don't think that he's involved. He could be. I mean, anybody could be. But just, I think he wanted attention from this. He's the neighbor. He saw an opportunity. He thought that he could get his name out there and maybe build something for himself. And he jumped out to do it. Maybe that's what he said. I haven't watched this at all yet. But he seems a lot different right here than he did in the interviews with what was that podcast that he was on? and where he does contradict himself in some statements, and he says some things, but it's almost like he's trying to make his narrative a better story than what it is. And that's why, like, he went over and gifted the wine that he was cooking with, and they were like, hell yeah. That, like, I didn't really get that. And then at one point, it felt like he had said in that one podcast that he had been inside the house before, and then that he hadn't. He didn't go inside the house when he gave him the stuff. Validation boy. What happened during the December 9th, 3 a.m. Idaho and Washington agents visit to 1122? I have no idea. That's when they went in and came back out, and everybody was asking questions of why they were there, what they were doing, right? I don't know. Maybe they went in to double check on something or verify that something was the way they thought it was, or was that before or after they had pulled all the victims' stuff out and started releasing that to families? Do y'all remember that? Was it before or after that?
I knew his brother semi-well, and we had a lot of like similar classes. We were in the same grade, and then kind of just through association, because like a small high school of like 900 people, like kind of knew his sister, but she was like 3 years younger, so like we didn't really like associate very much. But like I'd see her in like some of the friend groups when I was like selling pot to them or whatever. Yeah,
Wait,
no.
Wait, did you sell her pot?
I don't think so. No, I don't think I ever sold her pot. She maybe I did, but indirect.
See, this is why it's obvious. Hold on 1 second. Hey, Bubba. Oh, yeah. Well, we're gonna have to cut this short. My baby boy just got here. Sorry, guys. We will come back live once he goes back to his mother's. He's going to go home around 5 p.m. I don't want to give a specific time that I'll get to go live, but I plan to this afternoon / this evening. If anybody wants to come back and go through this here, I'm going to leave this saved. Going to remove this. Make sure you hit the like button before you go out. I really do appreciate it. Coming by, spending time, people who sent super stickers and super chats. I really appreciate that. It means the world that you care enough that you would donate your own hard-earned income to me for just talking, right? That's crazy. I always say there's nothing that I need. There's nothing special. If you want to give, I'll gladly accept it and appreciate it, but never feel obligated to do anything. I'm not raising money for any certain thing. I don't need anything. Anything that is donated will just go to try to keep making the channel better. I'm working on stuff. I've got like 3 screens now, better camera, working on getting another camera. So that type of stuff, all is appreciated. Appreciate you stopping by. The most help you could give me is to like the video or share it. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in a little bit.